Welcome to the Mystic Media channel. I'm your host, Rabid Rapper, aka the Realist Astrologer. And tonight I am doing the video on Fabolous. So I decided to do the share screen thing. So I'm doing this via Zoom conferencing. So let me just share my screen. And first I'm going to pull up the story about Fabolous and Emily Bustamante regarding this recent situation. So it must be right here. Bear with me. I'm trying to find this article. I wonder if this is it. I'm not sure if you can see this. So I'm going to stop sharing and then share it again. Okay. So this is from people.com, and it says Fabolous allegedly punched mother of his kids 7 times in the face, causing severe damage to her front teeth. Then the article starts off saying new details about rapper Fabolous' aggravated assault incident have surfaced. The star, 40, allegedly punched the mother of his 2 sons, Emily Bustamante, 7 times in the face and threatened her father and brother during a domestic dispute in Englewood, New Jersey, earlier this month. According to court documents obtained by NorthJersey.com, Fabolous-born John Jackson and Bustamante, who shared children Jonas, 2, and Johan, 10, allegedly got into an argument over text message on March 7th after he became enraged when he found out via Instagram she was also in Los Angeles, according to an affidavit of probable cause. Bustamante, who previously starred in VH1's Love and Hip Hop, told authorities that Jackson wrote that he wanted to hit her in the head with a baseball bat and that he would kill her, but he did not want to go out like that, as reported by NorthJersey.com. According to NorthJersey.com, the court documents detailed, scroll too much, hold on. The picture just popped up. That's Emily and Ratboy. That's what I'm going to call him, because he remind me of Ratboy. I'm going to get to that in a minute. According to NorthJersey.com, the court documents detailed that Jackson punched Bustamante 7 times in the face, causing severe damage to her 2 front teeth, which she ended up losing. Following the incident, Bustamante claimed she called her father and brother to the residence in order to remove 2 handguns due to her fear that they may be used against her. Jackson allegedly told her family members that he had a bullet for them when the rapper could not locate the firearms, according to court documents. A rep and attorney for Fabolous did not immediately respond to people's requests for comment. On Wednesday, Fabolous was charged with 3rd-degree aggravated assault and a 3rd-degree terroristic threats. Before he turned himself into the cops, Bustamante called the police to tell them he had hit her, as reported by TMZ. While Fabolous has not commented directly on the charges, he seemingly referenced the incident on his Instagram stories that same day, writing, 2018 trying to break my heart, over a black background and a broken heart emoji. So that's basically it with that story. Now let me pull up his chart. Okay, so Fabolous was born November 18th, 1977. Now, a word about that 18 birth number, that can cause somebody to be very aggressive. Basically, they're always getting into some type of conflict that can even cause them to be violent at times, especially when they feel like they're losing control of a situation, because 18s can be very controlling and also very selfish and self-absorbed. And also, there's this conflict that exists with the number 18 between one's spiritual values and one's material values. I noticed that there's kind of a delay with this video. I hope it still turns out okay. But anyway, his life path number is 8. So that makes things even worse, because that reinforces his need for control. So 8 basically is dealing with a life that is full of karmic debt that he has to pay back. It can lead to a life of loneliness and depression. So it basically seems like Fabolous is trying to hold on to Emily as tightly as possible because he has issues with, letting go and relinquishing control. So let's get into his birth chart. So I don't know his birth time, but I peg him to be a Leo rising, specifically at the 26th degree. And the reason why I say that is because that 26 reinforces his life path number of 8. And he is rather controlling at, as you can see with the domestic violence incident and the terroristic threats and all of that. Also, he is very Saturnian in terms of his looks. He looks like old before his time, like an old man. Matter of fact, like I said, he kind of reminds me of Ratboy. Like back in the 80s, early 80s, there was this movie called Ratboy. And I remember it used to come on like HBO every now and then. So some of you guys who are around my age, you might recall this Ratboy movie. But I'm going to just show you a picture so you can see what I'm talking about. Just give me a minute. So this is Ratboy. So to me, Fabolous looks like a black Ratboy. I'm sorry, but he just does. And just knowing his character now and seeing his chart, I'm like, that really fits. So I'm his nickname is Ratboy to me. So if I say Ratboy a few times, now you know what I'm talking about. So back to Ratboy's chart. Like I said, he has this Saturnian look where he just has this dour face. He looks old before his time, and he looks kind of dried out and just sourpuss. He doesn't strike me as a happy person, and I never really took a big liking to Fabolous as a rapper, really. I did like a couple of those songs that he had, like Holla Back, but it was mainly because of the beat and all that stuff. But I've never really been a fan of Fabolous, so it's really nothing for me to really, take digs at him or whatever, especially now, because I'm like, it's fair game now that he want to put his hands on people and shit like that. So anyway, let me get into his chart. So his sun is at the 26th degree of Scorpio, and that 26 reinforces that issue with control. And 26 would also match that ascendant at the 26th degree. Again, like I said, this is just speculation on my part about his birth time, but I do feel like he is very Saturnian, which would make sense that his Saturn is in the first house. And he is rather small in terms of build, like he's rather demure looking, and that could very much be Saturn and Virgo in his first house. So his sun being at the 26th degree, that 26 is about partnerships, but it's about partnerships that are rooted in karmic debt. So partnerships that are going to be hard. And the thing with the 26 is you can be in a partnership, but you need to maintain independence. You need to maintain your individuality, because if you don't, you can end up getting into a messed up situation where you end up losing a lot, and you might end up, falling into deep depression because you attach yourself to someone that didn't necessarily really have your best interests at heart or what have you. But in this case in particular, that 26 can also break down to or point to him being like a punisher. And again, it goes to that issues with control. Also, what reinforces his punisher nature is his Mars is at the 8th degree of Leo. So that 8th degree reinforces that need for control that he has. And Leo is one of those signs that can be violent, especially the men, actually the women too. So with his Mars at the 8th degree of Leo, he does have the tendency or the ability to get rather violent. Then his Mars is in square to Venus. So he has that fixed square. So this can cause him to like blow up at people and to basically lose his temper and to do things that he may later regret. Like basically he can black out on people, and that's what he must deal with Emily. And then what makes matters worse is his Mars is also squaring Uranus. And that can make him very uncompromising, uncooperative, and also the type of person that will just fly off the handle and just become very irrational when they get angry. So he has it really bad. Just alone with Mars square Venus, that can point to a guy that, you know, hits on women, or he tries to control women and tries to overpower them and dominate them, especially because we're talking about Leo. Leo is that domineering sign. And then Scorpio is about control. Scorpio can also deal with abuse. And then with his Venus conjoined to Uranus in Scorpio, that's pointing to possible infidelity, and also where, you know, his woman ain't exactly his. So there could have been some issues back in their history where she dipped out on him and things like that. So whenever something arises or he suspects that she's doing something that he feels she shouldn't be doing, he probably goes back to those memories of when maybe he caught her doing something or whatever like that. So with his Venus conjoined to Uranus, that also means that he's not built for a traditional relationship. This is a conjunction that can lead to frequent upsets in a relationship, and where the relationship is basically just one of convenience. So this basically could point to, after all that's said and done, you know, it's about Emily getting his money. Again, this Venus conjoined to Uranus can deal with Emily being entitled to his money. So he has a lot of issues with, you know, having not having control over this situation, and it shows it with this Mars and square to his Venus and Uranus. And then he has Sun square Saturn. His Sun is in square to Saturn, which makes matters worse because that reinforces the issues with control. Sun square Saturn people can be rather mean and just not nice, and very, like, they're basically like Scrooges. And this is somebody that can fall into deep depression as well. And he's someone that, you know, during times of breakup or when he feels threatened, he's going to do everything in his power to try to subdue that person or punish them and whatever. So again, this goes back to him being like a punisher. He is not a nice person. And then the fact that his South Node is in Aries. Now, with my proposed birth sign, that would be in the 8th house, which would reinforce his abusive nature. So his South Node is in Aries, which means that he's coming from a past life of being very selfish, being very aggressive, being a fighter, being violent, all that stuff. So he's not used to being in relationships. He's not used to cooperating. He's not used to compromising. And then to make matters worse, his North Node in Libra is conjoined to Pluto. So this could deal with he gets in a relationship with a woman, but she's not entirely his. Or it could deal with a relationship that is fraught with abuse or where it's control issues. So this whole thing with control with Fabolous is really strong in his chart. And then he has his moon in Pisces. And let me tell you something about men that have moon in Pisces. Not all of them, but some of them, a lot of them have twisted ideas about women. And a lot of these men that have moon in Pisces, they can't really deal with women that are very strong and independent. And if you really look at Emily, and if you've seen her on VH1 Love and Hip Hop, you'll see that she is rather docile of a character. She is rather submissive. Like, you could see her really taking a submissive role. So a lot of the times men with moon in Pisces, they do want a woman to be totally submissive, or they want her to be almost like just like a doll that they could just behold, or they could, you know, use at their leisure and then put up on a shelf when they're, you know, tired of her, and then take her back down. And basically she's supposed to be fine with it and put up with all that he has, all that he's dishing out. A lot of times men with moon and Pisces are attracted to prostitutes and stuff. Not saying that's what Emily is, but that could be part of Fabolous issue as well. So that could have been cause of some strife in the relationship and all that good stuff. But this also, with his moon in Pisces, square in Mercury and Neptune and Sagittarius, this is showing that he has abandonment issues, especially because the moon is in Pisces. So he has abandonment issues more than likely stemming from his mother. So I wonder what happened with his mother in the early part of his life. Matter of fact, let me look at his asteroids and see if he, matter of fact, he does have Saturn conjoined to Proserpina, and that could deal with him being separated from his mother or separated from family or home at some early point in his life. So that could deal with that can go into the separation anxiety. Now, if his birth time is anywhere like I propose, he has Arachne opposed to the moon. And Arachne can be where you weave a web of deceit or drama or deception or lies, all that crazy stuff. So this is him getting into like drama with Emily, the mother of his children. This is him basically not being able to co-parent effectively. Like it's always some crazy stuff going on. He has Toro conjoined to the North Node. Toro is about male aggression. It's about violence. It can lead to abuse. So that reinforces Pluto on his North Node. He has Toro right next to the North Node. So that points to him being in abusive relationships. What else this fool got? His Juno. His Juno is conjoined to Mercury and Neptune. And that deals with that text message that he received that set everything off, that made him go crazy. So he must have discovered that there was some, like they're not clear about the text message in that news story. Maybe some of you guys have more inside information about this, but that can deal with the text message, but it can also just deal with the main problem in his relationships is communication, but also lies, deceit, and trying to keep a woman trapped, trying to keep her in bondage, and also wanting a woman to be like totally submissive, basically to his will. It can also deal with him being delusional in relationships. Like he lets his imagination run wild when, you know, maybe he suspects that something wrong is happening. He's, you know, that his woman is about to cheat on him, and then he just starts concocting all these wild and crazy fantasies, and then he just, you know, goes off on the deep end. So he also has back to his Saturn. Let me make sure it's right. I believe Saturn is on Regulus, yes. So he has Saturn conjoined to Regulus, so that could deal with him being very ambitious. It could deal with his successful rap career, but Regulus can also produce someone that is very violent, that is aggressive, and that is prone to accidents, and also where they can meet with a sudden downfall. Then he has Venus conjoined to Alphecca. Alphecca is a fixed star that can deal with betrayal in love, scandals, and sorrow through children. And he also has Venus conjoined to Acrux, and that can deal with him having to make sacrifices. So that could deal with him having to pay child support and also criminal charges, those domestic violence charges. Let's see what else he got. I mean, that's basically the most of it. I mean, but also his Mars at the 8th degree, because that 8 is like Saturn Capricorn, that points to him basically knocking Emily's teeth out or damaging her teeth where they had to come out. So also you could look and say the same thing about his Sun at the 26th degree, his life path number 8. Like sometimes things can manifest literally in terms of the natal chart, like the degrees, and also in terms of numerology, like the birth number, life path number. So that's just showing that he's, like I said, he's like a punisher, and then he'll go too far. He could be very sadistic. So he has it bad. So maybe this one incident will cause him to chill out and cause him to realize that he can't control everybody, especially the women that he's with. Now let's just get into his transits real quick. Fabolous is going through his Neptune square Neptune transit. Neptune is in Pisces and is squaring his Neptune in Sagittarius, and that could deal with him getting caught up in a scandal. That could deal with him basically losing control, losing it, even losing his mind for a little bit, especially because Neptune is conjoined to Mercury. And then his Neptune, see, I don't know if his birth time is correct, but if it is, Neptune would be hovering around his moon, and that can cause him to basically lose his mind too for a minute, and also to be very paranoid about losing his woman. And also that could deal with him facing jail time or whatever like that, probation. And then he has Saturn in quincunx to Mars, and that can deal with him having a run-in with the authorities as a result of his violent attack. So that basically deals with him being thwarted. Now, like, he's being watched, so now he can't just be putting his hands on Emily like he was before. And I'm pretty sure this wasn't the first time that he's put his hands on her. And like I said, she looks like the type of woman that's very docile, that'll put up with a lot. Also, his transit Chiron is in sesqui square to Uranus, that could deal with a severe upset. And the sun, on the day that domestic violence situation happened, the sun was in semi-square to his Chiron. So that could deal with, perhaps it was another man involved in terms of that text, and that set him off, because Chiron could deal with inflicting wounds upon people. So that set him off and caused him to commence to wailing on her ass, which is like, I'm just like, wow. And his Chiron is in Taurus, and that could deal with him being very possessive, being very jealous. So he's a sad pup. I don't know if he's, from what I see in this chart, I really can't see him changing, really. Like, he might chill out for a few years or whatever like that, but he definitely needs to learn how to control himself around women. To me, men that hit on women, like, they're some of the most despicable type of men, because I'm like, come on now. Like, that just says a lot about them, that they're really weak. And if I'm correct about his birth time, that would put his Mars in the 12th house, and that can produce a man that's rather weak, so he has to overcompensate by beating up on women. I'm just putting it out there. So before I go, I'm going to pull a card just to represent Fabolous' character, to see if tarot is reinforcing what I see in his chart. Okay. So I got 8 of Cups. So to me, this deals with that moon square, well, moon in Pisces, number one, because this is a Pisces card. This is actually Saturn in Pisces. So moon in Pisces, square Mercury and Neptune. This can make him delusional, make him basically go off on the deep end. He could have an issue with drugs and alcohol, and that probably was the case. He probably, I don't know, he might have been drunk, and then he really went off the deep end. But this also could deal with separation anxiety, just like I said. So when he feels threatened, he's liable to lose it and turn violent. And again, this can deal with him feeling like he's not in control of his situation. So he got it bad. So, and that's a card also, again, like I said, that's denoting a man that's rather weak. And, you know, it's common for men that are weak to beat up on women because they can't beat up on men. So, like I said, I don't see him really changing his ways, especially because he's an 18 birth number, and 18s could be assholes for real. Excuse me, anybody, if you're born on the 18th, but if anybody know anybody that's born on the 18th, you may know what I'm talking about. Now, not everybody that's born on the 18th are going to be aggressive. So sometimes that energy will be projected onto other people. So especially women that are 18, you can easily attract abusive men, or men that are hypersexual, men that are violent, men that feel like they got something to prove. So yeah, so that is fabulous. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you would like a reading, you could go to my website at rabina.com. Peace and many blessings.